Warning: the following episode of That Mental Ginger Show contains strong language and adult themes.
Alright, troops.
Hello and welcome to That Mental Ginger Show with your host Andrew Durning, aka The Mental Ginger. Well, my 5 faithful followers, can you believe it? We got to the end of 2021. There's only been maybe 2 apocalypses and the cockroaches haven't taken over yet. I'm quite impressed. So I thought to celebrate this, we would get an actor, singer, podcast host, originally from Texas. It is the one, the only Brian Chambers. Brian, how you doing, my friend?
Andrew, good. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And thank God the cockroaches haven't taken over because I can't stand them.
Yeah. Well, they say it's going to be like only 3 things that survive: cockroaches, Twinkies, and Trump.
Yeah, that's probably in that order, probably as well.
Yeah. I'm not specifying it's all of Trump. I'm just saying his hairpiece.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Well, that's as closest to political as I can get because the rest of them are like, screw it. The news is evil for me. I just it's all depressing. Let's create our own news. Let's just do fun stuff.
No, I understand that. And, being from Texas, like you said, I am from Texas, and everyone, looks at Texas as a pure red state. And, it's really, I live in a very blue area. So it's, it's very different than what people think. But, of course, before I moved to Texas, I asked my dad when he told us we were moving to Texas, I said, do I have to ride a horse when I go to school? So when I was very young, and he just kind of looked at me and laughed. But, all those stereotypes, they're all here, but it's all love. It's all love.
Well, this is a more positive experience with a Texan than I had. The only time that I had an experience with a Texan was went to Las Vegas with my family, and me and my brother were getting a taxi down the strip. And the cabbie was Texan, and he was talking about how we're going to bomb everything from the Mormons to the Muslims. We don't care. I was like, you don't have a chance of a gun in your car? Yeah, every cabbie carries a gun. Let us out here. Well, we didn't know where it was. We just wanted out in case we got shot.
I'll debunk a couple myths. I have a lot of people that I know that own guns and are practice gun safety, and they're properly used. I'm personally not a gun person, so I don't carry a gun. And if you come to Texas, you're not going to run into every person carrying a gun. So I'll debunk that myth right away. Also, it's so funny because I don't know if I have a Texas accent to you or not. I'm not quite sure. A lot of times people look at you and be like, "Oh, you have a Texas accent," or "No, you don't really have a Texas accent." But accents are very interesting all over the U.S. because I could travel to the West 2 states and they'd be like, "Oh, you have a Southern accent," or I could go just to the East and they'd be like, "No, you don't sound like that." Yeah. So I've been told I don't sound like I'm from Texas, but most of us here in Texas do not carry guns, and we don't all have that thick country accent where we're gonna talk to you like this, and we're gonna blow everything up. But so I'll debunk that myth for you. But I do love living here. My wife was born and raised here, and there's some good people.
Yeah. Well, I'll also be upfront. I've never fired a gun in my life. Well, I'm pretty sure I'd end up like, you ever seen the Family Guy episode with Stewie at the carnival? He's got a 10 gauge. It just flies right back. That would probably be me. I'd probably blow my shoulder out or something.
I about to say in Scotland is our guns, they're not widely used except for maybe if you're in for sport and hunt, right?
Yeah, that's that's kind of more England than Scotland. Well, sometimes it's more for what they call it, like animal kind of control, because they have like a lot of the Highland deer, so it's kind of calling it to save it overrunning. But
got it.
Well, but yeah, I've never fired a gun, and I'd probably be the worst person to trust with a gun.
Well, I will say this, one thing I wanted to mention. I have a friend of my wife's friend, good friend, got married, and he participates in Highland Games here or in the US,
Yeah.
which I thought was really, really interesting. And I didn't know there was a large set of people here in the United States that actually participated in a circuit of Highland Games. So I found that very, very interesting, to be honest, because he said they do training in Texas here in certain areas, and but they travel the different I guess different cities. It's kind of hosted by different cities. But I thought that very, very interesting. So because I know you're from Scotland, Highland Games are a big thing for you guys, but I had never heard that was even something that anyone in Texas ever did. But there you go. There's a little culture from across the pond.
Yeah, definitely. And my love of Texas is barbecue sauce.
I will say there's some good barbecue here.
Oh yeah, I definitely need to get some better barbecue. I think the best one I've had was the Jack Daniel's Tennessee honey glaze, and I was like, oh, I feel like I'm in heaven. Beautiful.
Well, if you ever come and visit, you let me know. We'll get you some really good barbecue.
That's good. Maybe if you ever come to Scotland, crash on my couch. It's a very comfy couch.
Oh, good. Okay.
I've crashed on it I've had to crash on it a few times myself. I'll probably crash on it tonight. So the way I like to start my episodes is to get the guests to tell us about their origin story, because if there's one thing we've all got in common, it's our origins. So Ryan, for our 5 faithful followers, please tell us your origin story.
Well, for those 5 faithful followers, first of all, thank you for listening.
Yeah, well, we just recently went up to 5 in the last episode. It was 3 beforehand, so you're coming on.
There we go. So there's 2 more. I feel honored.
The Phoenix is rising. The Phoenix is rising.
I feel that. No, Andrew, thank you for having me. My origin is, I was born in California, but bounced around because my father was working in the oil industry. So, we moved quite a bit. And, I lived in Anchorage, Alaska before moving to Texas. I was young, but most of my life has been here in Texas. So I'm not a native Texan, but I've been here long enough to call myself a Texan. And I'm the second of seven in my family.
Wow. So, did your dad not know when to pull out?
Yeah. We have a running joke. I'll just tell you right now. Yes, we are Catholic and we are Irish.
Yes. That's brilliant.
So yes, so that is, I'll just put that on the table. Yeah, I'm there's 5 boys, 2 girls in our family, and oh man, talk about, if you didn't eat, at the table when dinner was served, you didn't eat all. It was just a free for all. Well, I guess I say that lightly, but in
fairness, we were exactly the same when we had my older brother. Well, I almost died of malnutrition.
Yeah. My older brother, none of them they all live in Texas now again. We've all kind of bounced around, but they're not I'm in Houston, and they're in different parts of Texas, and Texas is a very large state. So, for me to visit them, it's like a 4-hour drive.
Wow.
Just to visit them. Yeah. One brother is a little closer, like 2.5 hours, and that's in a completely different city. So, so I see them at holidays, but yeah. So, I come from a big family. I've kind of grown up here in Texas. I've been a performer all my life, really. I performed with a professional boys choir growing up. So my mom was big into music, so I had to do the piano lessons and all that. But my dad was big into the sports and the athletics. So I kind of got a dose from both sides. But the funny thing is, in my family picture, I'm really fucking short. I'm 5'6", and all my brothers are 6'1" or 6 foot or something like that. Even my sister, who is, I think, 5'10" or something like that, and, so in the family photo, you see everyone's head going across, and then you see a little dip, and that's me. So
that's just a lifeline. That's you. Just a beep.
That's exactly what that is. So, yeah. So they're all, I guess I got my mom's genes on that side. She's the shorter one. They all got my dad's genes. I think
never piss off the little people. My dad's fat.
I got the little hair. I got the hair, man. I got the hair. That's,
really?
I got the good hair from the family, in my opinion.
Well, there you go. That's it. My dad's 5'7", my mom's 5'4". I would not want to piss any of them off.
Yeah. So we're growing up, I did swimming and music and things like that. I was into more individual sports and things like that. But we all performed and did music at one point in our life, which is really, really neat. But I kind of kept going with it, and I think there's other of my brothers, some of my other brothers have continued to do some form of music in their life, but I really kind of stepped into that, and then you get into your teenage years, and you start the rock band, and I where I was listening to Bush and Nirvana and grunge music, and
you're speaking my language, man. You're speaking my language.
So Green Day all day long.
Oh,
so,
yes.
So I got into that, and so music kind of changed, and then I went to school, because that was I went to college, university, because that was what we did in our family. My dad was really big about doing that, and I was really blessed to come from a family that could help afford to pay for our education. So in that sense, I was really, really blessed. And I don't come from a super wealthy family, but that was one thing I know my dad did. He was a very hard worker and worked his way all the way up. So very proud of him. He's kind of, I know it's, I guess, cliche to say that, oh, who do you look up to? And I have a lot of people I look up to, but my dad is just one of those guys. He's had to work for everything he's ever earned. So, and he's come from a lower place all the way up. So everything he's like earned on his own he's shown us that you have to put in the work and things like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and it's really great. And, coming from a large family, there's a lot of different personalities, right? So, we all are different in some weird way. And when you grow up, I guess I don't have kids. I've been married for about 10 years, and my wife and I aren't planning to have any kids. But
Good.
I have neighbors, I have nephews and nieces that are my brothers have, and you have the parents are like, when are you gonna have kids, or when you have a large family, it's almost like, I want to say that my mom was hoping that well, one's gonna be a doctor, one's gonna be a priest, one's gonna be I mean, I may be jumping out of line to say that, but I feel like there at one point in her life, she was kind of thinking, well, I got so many of these kids, someone's got to make it, right? And so what did I do? I go to university, I have a really great time, and I start in broadcast journalism and sports radio, and that doesn't work out. And then I go into education. And in between that, I start performing again, and I get into acting and all this other stuff. And, I graduate and I got a degree, and I'm like, okay, now what? So I tried graduate school for a short time, and it wasn't working out. And then I decided that, I'm going to go back home and figure things out. And I started interviewing for jobs and corporate America jobs and things like that. And, it just wasn't where I wanted to be. I actually preferred something a little more, off the beaten path. And it fell into my lap when I had a friend that goes, oh, well, I'm going to go over to South Korea to teach English.
Wow.
And you have an education degree, and my degree was really in sociology and family studies.
Yeah.
So
that's so ironic. family studies, keep me away from kids.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Well, I mean, you laugh at that, but the thing that drew me into studies like that, though, Andrew, was just human behavior. To me, is very interesting, because it's unpredictable, and every time we think we have it pegged, something changes. Now you can find patterns and things like that, but I found it just very fascinating, and especially as we develop, how we change. And it's even more relevant, I think, now these days than any other, because we look at everything under a microscope these days.
Oh yeah.
But it's kind of also what has led me back into performing and acting, because with all these characters and these stories and things that you're telling, doing research is a big part of that. But before I jump into that, let me just go back, but real quick for timeline purposes. So graduated, decided I'm going to go to South Korea and teach. I'm there for almost 2 years. Brilliant experience. Oh my gosh, wouldn't trade it for the world. Loved it. Had a great time. In fact, I had planned to go back, but I wanted to come home and spend a little time with the family, being gone for so long.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided I'm going to stay. And I started doing shows, musicals and theater. And I ended up meeting my wife we start, well, I mean, didn't propose to her right out the gate. That would have raised the red flag for her. But I started dating, and I decided I'm gonna stay here. And I went back in kind of the educational and schools and things like that. And I decided I didn't want to do it. I wanted to kind of, forgive me for anything, I felt like I wanted to blow my brains out, because I was working with so many different people that there's like a hidden agenda for everything. And I worked with students who I loved. And I also worked on the business side, and working with teachers and students in the classroom and on the business side of the schools. They're very different, but there's still some of the same bullshit you have to deal with. And I don't say that to deter anybody that likes to teach, because I think it is a wonderful thing and a very difficult thing, because these days teachers have to be able to do more than just teach something in their class. They have to, be almost a first responder and, know all kinds of protocols and all. I mean, there's just a plethora of things that they need to know. And so I applaud teachers that do it, but I just didn't want to do it. I was unhappy, and I needed to go back to something that was going to give me some kind of joy in my life, and I understand we all have to do what we have to do to work. But I guarantee it that the minute that I switched doing something and working and busting my ass for something I loved, it made more difference to me than getting a bigger paycheck, for doing something that I just couldn't wait to get out of. There's nothing worse than showing up to work, and the second you get there, you're like, I can't wait till I can leave. To me, that's a huge issue. And so I didn't want to do it anymore. And I tried it, and there was situations I just found myself in, I just didn't enjoy being put in. And so I went and decided I'm going to go into acting. And so in between all of this, it's always been a constant. And that's when I made the choice that I'm going to professionally act. And I've had training, and I've gone through. Now, I didn't get my degree specifically in acting, but I started taking classes and courses and doing auditions and working with people and doing, getting a voice teacher and everything else. And it's a constant, and you have to continue to improve in your craft, even when you get when you feel you get to a good or a peak point in your career, or a really great and strong standpoint in your career. I still feel that's when you need to even look more at enhancing in what you're doing. And like any profession, I think that is. But the difference was when I made that switch and I started going to auditions and having this odd schedule and, finding rehearsals, and, it became mentally and physically exhausting at times, but it was fulfilling. I never, ever felt like I was in a place where I didn't want to be there. I was never like the next day, it's like, oh God, I can't, there are days you get tired, and there's days you're just like, oh, I could use a day off. But at the same time, then you do the performance, then you get the people you work with and the experiences that you get. You're just like, nope, that's what I want to do. And don't get me wrong, in the acting world, theater and film, there is plenty of BS that happens, and there's everywhere you go, there's something, there's pros and cons to everywhere. But the difference is you sit there and you go, this is where I want to be. And so since then, I've been acting professionally. In fact, I had shows that just wrapping up for this past holiday season, and I got other stuff coming up in the future. And it's just been a wonderful experience. And one thing I will tag on before I clip my origin story. You said you only had a half hour, right?
We can run longer.
Okay, cool. You told me at 2 hours, right? That's why I'm going into all this, right?
Oh, you can keep going, man. I'm all right. I'm all right. This is the easiest interview I've ever done. You're just doing the talking. I'm can chill.
Oh man,
I'm cool.
I'm as soon as I see you like nod off, I'll be like, oh, okay, that's my cue.
No, it's when you hear. It's when you hear the.
There we go.
There we go.
I was like, I'll drink some whiskey for you over here. Well, wake you up. So one thing I mentioned growing up, I was into swimming. So that was my sport, really. I played basketball and baseball, and I didn't play American football because I was too small. That was the fucking short one. Remember, my dad wouldn't sign the permission slip for me to get hit.
Yeah.
So like when you were in younger grade school to play those sports, because
Yeah.
it's like hitting, you had to get permission from the parents to do the sport. My dad's like, no, you're not playing this. so I was like, great.
It's still unfair though. That in my case, I went to performing because I couldn't do anything else because I was shit at sports. But you've got the advantage of you're good at sports and you can perform. This is rare.
Oh, no.
That's like Bigfoot riding a unicorn, man.
Oh man, okay, you're giving me too much credit there. Let me just say, good at sports. Now I said I played sports. Now being good at sports, now that's a different thing. I have some athletic ability enough I'm coordinated enough.
My coordination is opening the fridge door, getting something out of it, and then going back to the couch.
Now, I will say this: my brothers, especially my older brother, and my two younger brothers, they very, very good athletically, very coordinated. We were all gifted, I think, in a sense, musically and with some athletic ability, but they were much stronger athletes than I was ever. But I really enjoyed swimming because it was kind of an individual thing, and then I played water polo to kind of tie, because I was good at swimming. I could swim, let's just say, and I was a strong swimmer. I wasn't a great swimmer.
Yeah.
If we're looking at the times, if I had to go back and look at those times, I'd be like, yeah. But yeah, so I did that. But the funny thing was, I loved it, and it's helped me to have kind of a side gig going on. When I'm not acting, I actually coach high school swim students. And I work with a swim team. And I've never thought that, that teaching realm and that's all kind of been like a boiling pot, of how to make it. And all these little things, like, you're into water polo and swimming, and you did music and you played instruments, and, all of it kind of, you don't realize what it's creating when you're doing it, which has been really, really unique for me to find out that, doing that stuff really opened that door for me. Yeah. And so I actually today, even though I'm a professional actor, I still on the side, I get to coach, swimmers, and I find it gives me a little bit of that competitiveness, that without having to get way into everything. And, then I can go and do my music stuff and act. And so I love it. And so, these days I find a lot more bliss of balancing having multiple things in my life like that. And so it's one helps the other. So, and I don't want to say in a nutshell, because that's not a nutshell, but that prolonged soliloquy right there is my origin story. And I guess I mentioned my wife being married for 10 years, but so I'm making sure I made her a part of that, because that is also part of my.
But don't worry, I saw my wife video bombing the back in the dining room going into fill her glass, and I was like, really? The times that I do this, woman? I'm so dead for that. But she doesn't listen to me, so fuck it.
I know for my podcast that I do with my friend, my wife listened for a while, and the more you do it, the less she stops listening. She's probably listening in the other room right now, me saying that. So
hello, Brian's wife. Hello. Well, if she wants to bomb, we can always say, I can go, man, you're punching above your weight, dude.
Yeah, right. I married way above my head. She's way too good for me.
Yeah,
so. That's
the same with my wife as well. Like she's too good for me. So you mentioned your podcast. So that's a good segue. Sell, baby, sell your podcast.
Yeah. So I do a podcast, and we started it during the pandemic.
Everybody did. Yeah,
exactly.
I did.
I know, and it was kind of one of those last things that we thought we would really do. A good friend of mine who I met through my wife, who she's a yoga and Pilates instructor and has her own studio, and she's a dance teacher.
An appropriate comment coming now, but she must be able to bend in some weird ass places for you, man.
She's very flexible. My wife is very flexible.
Nice one. I just look at my wife wrong and her back goes out. It's crazy.
She's really into the health and fitness stuff. She was a dancer and for many years, but she was also a gymnast growing up as well. So, all the aches and pains of being so athletic and physical, with all that has come into play, and she's really gotten to kind of know how to take care of herself and the health and fitness, and she does a great job. And
That was how you and your wife met, was it? Like through performing?
Oh, you'll get a kick out of this. No, we
Okay.
met during a show.
Yeah.
And the show was called The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
Oh, I've heard of that actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you have? Okay, good.
I have indeed, yes.
Okay, good. So yeah, so on our when everyone always asks how we met, we always say we met at a whorehouse.
Nice.
So, but we were matched up as dance partners for the show, and that's how we met. And of course, we didn't start dating till after. I had to kind of wear her down a little bit. She was dating some other guy, but it worked out. In the end, it worked out for me.
There. Right,
it worked out for me.
Well, and the surprise guest, the guy that you stole it from.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I would be amazed, Andrew. I'd have to say, I would.
That would be crazy. That would be unreal. if we were able to find this guy, I'd be like, right, this is going to be the most awkward interview in the world.
Yeah, actually, if you were to pull that off, it'd be so funny because I would have questions actually, because he bowed out pretty quickly. I mean, there was he like ghosted out. I don't know if I was all my 5'6", threatening self. But anyway, yeah. So my wife introduced one of her students that she was teaching, one of her adult students. They always have a New Year's Eve party, and she goes, they invited us over. And so she's like, this really interesting, who've become dear friends of ours. Say, oh, they've invited us to their party. And so I go, okay. And so I went over, we had a great time. Her husband and I kind of hit it off. And so we just started kind of hanging out more and more and more. And they were very life of the party type people, but appreciated the arts and we're all very geeky and nerdy,
Yes.
Like I'm a large kid. I still get into all the comic book stuff and Marvel, and I love the Muppets and Legos and things like that.
Dude, so will you marry me? Well, I'll go Mormon. I'll take another one for you.
So I'm a 39-year-old child. So,
but he's
I'm 34. Similar.
That's fine.
There you go.
It's
awesome.
I say advantage of having kids because my boys are 3, they're twins, and they're watching the new Muppet Babies on Disney Plus.
Oh, yeah.
I love it, man. It's fucking awesome.
But see, at least you have a reason. At least you have a reason to watch it. Like I own Disney Plus for myself. We have no kids. And my wife doesn't watch it. I watch it.
There's still good content in Disney Plus.
Great content. Yeah. I mean, I'm a big Star Wars geek, but yeah. So
thank you.
I'm a big Star Wars geek. So yeah. So I love all that. I can't wait for the Book of Boba Fett to watch that. I haven't had time to be able to sit down and really to watch that yet. So
yeah, the only one I've not seen is The Mandalorian, and it's because I knew we had to watch Clone Wars and Rebels first to get some of the Easter eggs and the surprises.
Oh, okay. I don't want to spoil any of that for you.
Oh, the internet spoiled it a long time ago. I just get it now.
That's what the internet's good for these days.
Yeah. And I seen obviously when the wee preview of the Obi-Wan trailer dropped on the Disney Day, I was like,
yeah,
okay,
that's going to be another great one. Yeah, oh, now I think I'm blushing now. I'm like all like, ooh, I can't wait for it. No, I love all that kind of stuff, but I'm a large kid. And so this guy that we met, he was kind of a similar kind of wavelength. And so we just connected. We had a lot of fun. So over the pandemic, we were sitting around drinking, having a good time, one of our many long nights of just having great conversation and continuing to have a bottomless glass, or not let the drink touch the bottom.
Yep.
And we decided we should hey, let's do a podcast. It's like most great ideas when you're hammered that come about. It's like, if you're smoking a joint, like, dude, we should totally open a mac and cheese stand. It's so it's like the best ideas ever come out at those times, right?
Yeah.
And so we were having one of those, and we're like, you know what, we should do a podcast. But we were actually serious about it. And he looked at me because I was like, we could just record what we're doing now. We sit around, we have great conversations, relative banter, share stories, talk about things that are going on in the world. So it's really about us and to show that people can still sit down and have conversations.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
And so, we're like, well, what would we call it? And so I don't know. I was like, I don't know. And, we always joked about how we used to come in when our parents' friends growing up used to just show up at our houses and walk through the back door. Right. The doors were never locked.
Yeah.
Like these days, apparently it's a lot different, right? For a lot of people, like everything's like locked, camera on, you go through like 3 different security codes and an x-ray machine before you come into someone's home. And, we just always had a neighbor that would walk through our back door, and that was always an uncle or aunt of some kind. It's like
a friend of the family.
It's Uncle Stanley. And when you grow up, you're like, wait a minute, he wasn't really my uncle. Like, why did I call him that? So he had similar conversations because his family's he was from Connecticut up north. And so we had it was funny that we had these similar talks. And so we said, let's call it Neighbors Don't Knock. Because, the best neighbors that you want to walk in are like family.
Yeah,
and you just have those conversations. So we started the podcast. It's called Neighbors Don't Knock. We drop episodes every Friday. We have guests typically every other week. We'll have a guest from around the US right now, but we have global listeners. And, so we're willing and looking to branch out for any international guests. If you're interested in being on the guest, we've had people from, aviator instructors and pilots to stand-up comedians, race car drivers, top award-winning chefs, movie producers.
Wow.
We had a paranormal investigator for our Halloween episode. So, and it's really given us a really unique perspective of learning about expanding our neighborhood. So that has kind of been the grasping point for our show. We're expanding our neighborhood because our neighbors are not just living next door to us. Yeah. And I think it's a really neat way, especially these days, like you and I I couldn't even imagine that you and I would be talking right now, 10 years ago, right? Yeah. The way that we're talking. So it's amazing that that's happened. And so, to be able to share and get to know different people, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, it's like an adult version of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And I go, yeah, it's great. Yeah. We just pour drinks and we have that fun.
Brilliant.
But we drop episodes every Friday. We just wrapped our season 3 up. And our holiday episode, so you can check those out. But where our season 4 will be dropping, I believe, January 7th, I think 2022. So we'll have season 4 coming out very, very shortly. And it's going to be great. We already have a lineup of guests that is just amazing. So we're really looking forward to it. But yeah, we love the podcast. We love doing it. And kind of like you, it's great. We love getting to know people.
Now, considering like the lineup of guests that you've had already, I'm really, really sorry you're slumming it with me tonight, man.
Are you kidding me? No way. I'm really, when you contacted me, I was like, you know what? This would be so much fun. I loved it. And I was just like, I hope I'm the right fit for your show. And I really appreciate it because regardless of how this goes, for those 4 listeners, and I'm sorry if you lose
five, come on,
5, sorry, 5, sorry. I don't, but it'll be 4 after
poor Mark.
Episode.
Poor Mark, I'm gonna have to go and say, sorry, buddy, we missed you out on that one, but we're thinking of you. When it hurts.
I'm kind of feeling like if you're gonna send me a copy, like it didn't air, but we're gonna keep it in the archives just in case we need an episode.
In fairness, I've already had the censors on my ass.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of the episodes like in the final segment, what they looked at it and they're like, Andrew, you can't air that. And I was like, why not? Like, you can't air it because the things that you're talking about, you can get done for that. And I'm like, what? I'm not like saying anything like dodgy. I'm just talking about an experience that happened. He's like, yeah, but you can't say it. And I was like, all right, well, I'll cut it, but I'm not happy about it. And then
is that regulations through the Scottish government?
No, it was just I was going through like just as the channel was starting to grow, I was getting an audit done because I just wanted to make sure that none of my content really was stepping over that line. But because I always put like the warning just in case for saying strong language, adult themes, just in case anybody stupidly decides to let their kid listen to it and goes, "What's a ball bag?"
Yeah.
or
Well,
whatever.
hey, gingers are a wild card, man. You guys are gingers are a wild card, and I know quite a few, and they're awesome. I love them to death. But when they do something unexpected, I'm like, you know what? That's right.
Yep, and it makes sense. But yeah, so they were just doing a little audit of it, and it was just like, you're like, you can't say what you said on that one. I was like, have you listened to the next 2 episodes? It gets worse. You went, oh, they were no, they were fine. They were fine, man. It's just that specific bit. And I'm like, motherfucker, really? So I put a very, very due to censors, we've had to stop this. Blah, blah, blah. Like,
at least you don't have your mother listening.
My mom does listen.
Oh, does she? Okay. My mother actually.
I think she stopped now.
Oh, did she stop? Okay. See, mine will continue to listen, but we get feedback. They're like, it'd be great. I mean, the episode's great. It's great, but do you have to swear?
Yes. Yes, my mom is exactly the same. Exactly the same. Well, mom, if you're listening to this right now, I'm sorry, but it's true. Well,
I'm not dropping F-bombs all the time, but the next episode, my partner goes, well, what the fuck? We should do this. So fucking, like drop like four F-bombs like right in a row, and then goes, oh, well, hi, Mrs. Chambers.
It's like, I don't drop, I swear like a trooper, but I don't drop the C-bomb. That one is the one that I'm like, nah, I try and avoid that. And if anybody does say it, I'm like, okay, I'll maybe cut that. It's the only time I would really do an edit. But it's when my mom says, well, we didn't raise you like that. And I'm like, I know. But life got in the way.
It just needed it. It just needed it sometimes.
It's
and for us, when you're drinking too, we drink during our show. We're just for people that listen to our show, we're not belligerent at all. But we're not drunk, but
you're just going to Texas. You're going to the Texas stereotype there, man.
There you go. Exactly. Right. And sometimes it's some of the words just get away, but that's
definitely.
Okay.
Definitely, man. There's nothing. I think it's. Remember when you were a kid and something happened, like for example, like if you skinned your knee or whatever, you would cry because you couldn't articulate how you really felt about it. Then as you get older, you go, "Oh, you fucking bastard, you!" Well, you swear because that's the way of getting out without crying. That's just how
you're absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right. And hopefully, if my wife hears this, she won't hate me for this. I joke with her about this, that she has, a bad case of Tourette's every time she stubs her toe or something, because she doesn't swear very often at all. And unless she's extremely mad at me, for one, or she, like hurts herself for like really bad or stubs her toe. And then it's like, fuck, shit, blah, blah. It's like all of a sudden it's like it's like, whoa, what sailor just came to port right now? It just comes out of nowhere, like instantly. It's like a line of words that's all in one sentence. And I'm just I'm like, what'd you do?
Yeah. It's like I try not to swear around my kids. I don't swear around my family. Like I'm usually really respectful. The times I swear are podcasts or out with my friends because I feel more like relaxed and sociable. Now, my wife, she grew up on a farm. So she has a lot of swearing in her back locker.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of swearing. But it's still one of those ones that I'm like, wow, that came out of you? Really?
It is funny how we look at each other differently sometimes when it's something out of the norm, right? You kind of, and it's always fun because people will you get to know someone a little bit differently when they let that side of them slip out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it can be a good thing. It can be scary a little bit if you're not prepared for it.
Yeah.
But I think it's just who we are, and I think we put up so many walls sometimes. And when those break down with traumatic experiences and things like that, you get to see a different side of people. It's like watching someone in a crisis. You can really tell a lot about somebody the way they are when they're thrown into a situation like that.
Well, and also like well, back to the swear and if someone's comfortable enough to just let them rip, I'm like, okay, I know you're comfortable around me to actually, speak your truth, the way that you speak. Whereas if someone's more kind of very polite and very kind of reserved, that something isn't right there. Like you're not letting loose kind of way. Whereas I'm just like, once I've known something, I'm like, all right, you motherfuckers, what's up, man? How you getting? And just kind of, you feel more free. But when I start off with people, I'm more like, nice to meet you. And just sussing them out, make sure that I'm okay with, can I swear, can I not swear? And if I know them off, I'm just like, screw it, let's go for it.
I tend to be, of course, being an actor, I tend to not be the quiet one in the crowd, but I'm also not the loudest one in the crowd. I'm not one of those.
Yeah, I always find that when I was doing acting, being the quiet one actually worked to my advantage because no one expected the stuff that I would be able to do.
Oh, I think it's brilliant. I think it's great because I love seeing that, and especially when I work with different people, acting as well. When they get up and you just all of a sudden see this amazing character or scene or something just happen on stage, and you're like, wow, I never knew that. It energizes you in such a way. I love that. I love getting to know different actors because again, everyone always assumes that all actors, I say everyone, but there's a large portion of people out there that assume that just because you're an actor, that you're loud, you're, selfish, you crave the spotlight all the time. And I'm not saying there aren't people like that, and I'm not saying that I don't love being on stage, and if there's a spotlight up there, I'm not going to be like shying away from it. But we're not all selfish, people that just like we're in it for the money and to be famous and this and that. And I guarantee there's most people hearing this interview are like, who is this guy? But I act for a living and I'm okay with that. I love working with the companies and people that I work with and it's great. It's a profession. It's a craft I want to be a part of. I don't have to be, an A-lister Hollywood person to feel I have a successful career. And I think that's another myth that gets debunked with a lot of people. You don't have to be in New York or LA to be a successful actor. You can work as an actor almost anywhere in the world. You just have to have that drive.
Yeah, definitely, man. Well, and for anybody that was like, oh, who is this guy? Well, he has been the brilliant Brian Chambers, who has his own podcasts, and he's involved in a couple of theatre companies from what I did in this Facebook stalking. But
that's okay. That's normal now. That's normal.
Yeah. Like people say it's research. I just call it what it is. I Facebook stalk. That's what I do. But tell them about some of the companies that you're working with and some of the projects that you've either done or you're planning on doing for 2022.
Some of the companies that I've worked with, mostly local to Houston here in Texas. I just finished up a Christmas show called Little House Christmas. It's based on the Laura Ingalls books, Little House on the Prairie.
Nice.
So I played, that was really, I love doing shows like that based on books because a lot of times the characters you get to play are derived from real people.
Yeah.
And so it gives another layer of what you need to research and do when taking on that character. And it was a really beautiful story family show and loved it. I'm working on, I have a couple shows coming up this spring. I can't specifically announce them, but they will be on my website. Eventually you can go to brianchambersactor.com to get more information on that. But I am going to be directing a couple shows as well coming up. And of course, the podcast will be rolling. So I'm very excited for 2022, and we're looking at the end of the year I'm looking to be directing a brand new musical.
Oh, nice.
World premiere, actually, that will be debuting next fall, or I guess 2022 fall. So a lot of exciting things coming up. But again, nice one, for the most recent updates for what's going on, just go to brianchambersactor.com.
Nice one. Well, we'll definitely be checking it out, and I'll give it as much plugging as I can. But I would say normally we're coming up on time, but we have overshot the mark, well, majorly. But in fairness, it's been some blast talking to you, man. Like, it just feels like you're just sitting in the room with me and we're just having like the same kind of banter that you would have in your podcast. I think like, it's just been so free and easy. You're a funny motherfucker, by the way, man. You're absolutely hilarious.
I'm going to take that one.
Yeah.
As an actor, you can never give me too many compliments.
Yeah. Put that in your reviews. Funny motherfucker. That Mental Ginger Show.
I will. Absolutely. I love that.
Definitely. Just clip it. That's it.
There we go.
Yeah.
No, I really appreciate you having me on, Andrew. I really, and I think it's important that, everyone's like, well, I'm doing a podcast, but there is stuff out there for everybody. And I think that what you're offering out there is just as important as what we're offering out there. It's of course not for everybody. That's the beauty of podcasting and things like that. But you're out there and you're putting something and a piece of you out there, for others to connect with, like you and I never would have connected. I've had a blast talking with you. So I want to thank you. So, and keep doing what you're doing.
No, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. And just all the guests I've had on, have been absolutely brilliant. Like they've just rolled with my insanity, and some of them have went, "Oh, that's quite interesting." Some of them just went, "Oh." but so I'll round off your kind of section with the question that I ask all my listeners, because I do like to try and tie it into the mental health aspects. If you could give one piece of advice to anybody that was struggling with mental health issues at this precise moment in time, what would that piece of advice be and why?
Well, first of all, mental health is a real, it's real. And it's not anything that we should sneer at or ignore or, brush off. So if you find yourself that you're struggling and whether it's depression or, some kind of mental health issue that you have, I would seek out somebody. There's people you can call, but I would seek out, first of all, I would seek out a friend to let someone know if you can. That's usually the hardest thing, is to let somebody know that you're struggling mentally, right? And I guess this is more of a plea to people around you. If you notice somebody that you feel is struggling, asking and talking to them can be honestly the biggest help, because they may not know how to ask for help. But my biggest thing for anyone that is struggling is to take a deep breath, know that you're not alone. There are many of us out here that are struggling with mental health. And it's you are not someone that should be ignored. And if you just open up to somebody, doesn't matter who it is, find someone that you can open up to and share, that will be the best first step that you can make, and in my opinion. And now, I'm not someone who's ever personally struggled with mental health, but I have had people and worked with people that have had to deal with a lot of depression and mental issues, especially working in an industry like acting, where it's really, you get rejected a lot and you get beaten down, and there's a lot of roadblocks, and life throws a lot of curveballs at us, and we can't ever know what every angle is going to be, or what every situation is going to be. We don't always know how to handle it the best way, or we don't know what life's going to throw at us.
Yeah.
And you never know. It could be you. And being sensitive to somebody who is struggling with a mental health issue is also important for those of you that are listening out there. But, I just recommend trying to open up to somebody that you can trust, trying to take a step and just letting them know that, hey, I'm struggling today.
Yeah.
They may not need to do anything. Sometimes it's kind of like if someone just walked up to you just to say hello. The power of being seen does so much for us. Just for someone to say, hey, how are you doing, is sometimes so profoundly important to somebody, because it's saying, I see you. You're not just this blob in a crowd, right? You are someone who matters to somebody. So I think that's really important. So that would be my advice.
No, definitely some sound advice there, man. I really appreciate you coming on and just being you, man. What your sound as, which is one of the highest compliments a Scotch can give. Sound as
Oh,
Andrew Durning.
well, is that? Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Coming from a true Scot. You're
Yeah.
probably the first true Scot that I have ever met. So,
Well,
so I love that.
Well, I'll brief you on this just now. I'm actually a real pussy. So yeah, you
I
can
love
find,
it. Hey,
you can find
I
better
love it.
Scots. You can find them. Right. So we come to Texas's favourite segment. It is Ask Andrew Anything. And for the regular listeners, this is where, after me grilling the guest for 50 minutes and 32 seconds, according to my stopwatch, I get them to ask me a question. It could be something as ridiculous as who would win the fight between the Incredible Hulk and Darkseid, to something really mundane like who is your favourite Paw Patrol dog? So
okay. Now I didn't know you were going to throw Paw Patrol out there. So
now I have to
now I have to really think about that. But since we brought up and I saw you light up when we talked about Star Wars, who would be a Star Wars character you could see changing sides from the dark side to the Jedi?
That one that's maybe that at this current moment in time, what in the canon is already Darkseid?
Yes. Like who would you see? Who could you see going from villain to hero in the Star Wars world?
Oh, it's a very interesting question because there are so many different sides to Star Wars, and I have to be honest that the ones that do turn to the light side, I don't like them when they do. Well, I mean, for the prime example is Kylo Ren. Well, obviously there was a lot of clusterfucks with that trilogy, but when the thing I applauded Last Jedi for was that it had the balls to just say, this guy's going to be evil, deal with it. And then they totally retcon that in the next one and give him the whole kind of redemptive arc. And I thought, that's bullshit, man. Well, it's like, if someone goes down that bad a road, you want to just see them just go for it. Well, I know it's the whole thing of everybody can be redeemed, but people are dicks. Well,
yeah.
People are dicks, and sometimes you have to learn, guys.
And that's what that's what Obi-Wan should have said to Anakin.
Yeah,
you're a dick. You're a dick.
Yeah, it's like, stop being a dick, you dick, because sometimes you're very eloquent. If there's one person that I could see going light side, I would say Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Interesting.
From Star Wars Rebels.
Okay.
Because his kind of compass, with everything that I've watched from him in Rebels, there is no bullshit with him. He's just very much, this is my job, I've got to do it. And he kind of reminds me of, did you ever watch Star Trek: The Next Generation or any Star Trek?
I was not a Trekkie. My wife is a Trekkie. Actually, I'm not a Trekkie.
Well, you can clarify this with your wife, but it reminds me of a Cardassian, and they are kind of ones that wherever the wind blows, they'll switch the side to accommodate, like to make sure that they kind of keep going and they survive. So Thrawn, what if everything was going downhill on that side? I would see him flipping and just being like, right, this is going to benefit me. This is in my interests. I will carry on. I will go into this side until the wind blows, and then I'll jump back. Well, okay. and he can, because he's got that he's very calm. He's reassured. He knows what he's going to do. He knows how he's going to do it. He could turn anybody to fit his will. Well, and he's the hero. He's the hero of his own story. Well, like every kind of good villain should be.
Well, I love that. I love that you mentioned that, which is great. But I feel like I let you off too easy with the Star Wars question, so I'm going to make this one a little harder. I'm going to say,
we'll get a doubler. Yes,
I'm going to give a W. Would you rather bungee jump or skydive?
Skydive.
Ah,
yeah. I think I remember watching the bungee jump in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Well, And
Hillary's Brian Mitchell
Trevor
played it. Trevor, yeah.
Yeah, will you marry Splat? What?
That's what's ringing through your head now every day.
It's not just that; it's the bit that you never saw. I don't think that he just went slam and that was it. If that's a proper bungee cord, he should have bounced up, so you'd get several hits. Like it's just like bang, I'm dead. Bang, you're really pushing it now. Bang, okay, leave him be. Bang, oh, he's going in my
bad horror. It's a bad horror movie now.
Yeah, it's like C-rated Saw. Well, he just and then it's like, yeah, you might just well just put him in the mince and potatoes for dinner the night. There's nothing there. But with skydiving, if something happened with the parachute, it's kind of like when if you're like jumping out of a building or whatever, like before you get to the ground, like
base jumping.
It's like before you get to the ground, you're already like shit, I'm gonna die, and you basically have a heart attack on the way down, so you're already dead before you hit the ground. I would rather die in midair, and not have it then just been like, oh god, I can see this, and then just having this sheer force of it all just
so you prefer not to see it coming.
Nah, kind of like everything was that. I'd rather not see it coming. I mean, it's quite ironic that I came back to that because in the last episode, my guest asked me, "What's your biggest fear?" And I was like, death is my biggest fear. Well, I'm going. If this is the way that I want to go out of those two choices, I definitely take the skydive. Again, I was watching it was a show that was on years ago. It was called Vegas. James Caan was in it. It was basically James Caan ran a casino in Vegas. Well, and it was this guy, he was dying of cancer, and he wanted, it was like he's had somebody that he dated in high school, basically to give him one last bone before he died. Well, and she was like, no. Well, so they all went, like he just wanted to go skydiving, and then he just goes, see you guys, flings off his vest, straight out the plane. They're like, no. And it's like, they're like, that was such a baller move, man. He's just like, I'm not getting my hole. Can't you? Whee! 50,000 feet.
Oh, James Caan.
Yeah. It wasn't James Caan that flung himself out the window, but at the same time, I could see him doing that. But the difference is I could see him landing and the ground dying. James Caan just see that too. James Caan just hits the ground with his chin, and the entire world just splits.
Yeah. That's possibility.
Yeah, definitely. It was just like if Chuck. It's just the whole memes of Chuck Norris. James Caan's also got that Chuck Norris vibe about him.
A little bit, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Sylvester Stallone has more of a Chuck Norris feel than James Caan, though.
Mm.
I think the older that he gets, I mean, especially because they keep making Rambo movies.
Yeah,
it's like Harrison Ford. They're not going to let the man stop making Indiana Jones movies until he's absolutely gone off this earth.
Yeah, but I think this one's going to be the one where he goes. He's on a streak of killing off his characters. So maybe he's just accepting his fate, and he's like, right. But I don't want these other characters to die because who's next? I mean, will it be the president for Air Force One? Don't kill that guy off, man. That president was awesome. Get off my plane. Well, and if you kill all his characters off, then he might die. Don't do that. I remember watching the first Godfather film, and literally the week after I watched it, Marlon Brando died. And so I didn't watch Godfather 3 for about 10 years because I knew Al Pacino's character died in it. And I was like, I don't want Al Pacino to die. I ain't watching this.
Personally, the second one was the best one, in my opinion.
The second one's my favorite film of all time. It's absolutely brilliant, just sensational acting. That was obviously Al Pacino. And he's just before he was hitting the chew in the wall kind of acting. He was just on the cusp of it, but he was using it to the right way. Obviously, the introduction properly for Robert De Niro and him getting the Best Supporting Oscar. Diane Keaton, Robert Duvall, that end scene with them all that was meant to be in the first Godfather movie, but they kept it for the second. It was so refreshing seeing them all together again. It's such a smart directing choice by Francis Ford Coppola. And then he had to fuck it by doing the third one. But at the same time, I get it.
Yeah, I mean it's like any of these franchises when they're successful. Speaking of it, we mentioned Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
In fact, the third one was is my favorite. Not any of these more recent ones that they've done, but The Last Crusade, where they the Holy Grail stuff. I with Sean Connery. Brilliant. I loved it. I actually thought it was better than the other two. And I was like, when you get a hit on a third movie, it's like, stop.
Definitely.
Stop. Why do we need to keep going?
Definitely.
We'll just, it's like we don't need more Back to the Futures right now. We don't need to.
We've passed that future.
Yeah.
That future was going on 7 years ago.
Yeah. The flux capacitor is dead, my friend.
The flux capacitor, the science is totally fucked with that. Well, but that's another story for another day. That's when we I need to crack open a non-alcoholic beer, you crack open a blunt, we'll get all your guys for the podcast right now. I'll be like, right, you thought you had interest conversations before? Wait till this ginger motherfucker shows up.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get this party up to 88 miles an hour, guys.
But we're going higher. We're 89.
We're 89.
89. It's 21st century, buddy. 89 miles an hour. We've got to do it.
There we go. That's right.
This has been an absolute blast. I always have such a great time with my guests because I always seem to hit home runs with them, and you're just another one. You've knocked it not just out of the park, you've knocked it out of Earth. It's heading for Mars. Well, it's going to colonize Mars from how good this podcast has been. Thank you so much, man. Well, I've really enjoyed your time, mate. It's been great.
No problem. Thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate you taking time, man. It's been wonderful.
Yeah. Well, until next time, my friends. I have been Andrew Durning. This has been Brian Chambers. Check him out at brianchambers.com.
BrianChambersactor.com. Or you could check out our podcast, neighborsdon'tknock.com, or wherever you listen to your podcast.
You get them on all the podcasty sites, I assume?
Yes, yeah, pretty much. But if you type in Neighbors Don't Knock, you should be able to find us.
That's good. Well, and anybody in the Houston area, come on. Get this man signed up to a pro contract, man. But if you've not heard how fucking good he is after this, man, what are you doing? Why are you wasting your life?
I'll come to Scotland for a gig. I'll come over there and we'll work. Definitely.
To all my Scottish friends, hit Brian Chambers up. Definitely. Yeah. Get some of my previous guests from the industry, from America, bring them all over. We'll just have one massive jam session and just go nuts.
Sounds like a party. Sounds like my kind of party.
We will rip Coatbridge a new arsehole, my friend.
I love it.
Yeah. So until next time, my 5 faithful followers, take care, stay safe. Bye-bye.